And hello to you all out there in the comic book community in the land we call YouTube. It's me, GhostCritic, with a comic book review. Well, it's not really a show this week. I'm sorry I've been a bit lazy. I couldn't be bothered to set up my camera this week. So I'm going to kind of strip it all back and do what is essentially, I guess, a podcast where I talk about the comics I picked up this week. So potter around your room, do a bit of cleaning, reorganise your comics maybe, but just have me on in the background. There's nothing to see here. We're going to kick off this week with a couple of Infinity titles, starting with Wolverine and the X-Men. They get themselves their very first annual, and it is an Infinity tie-in, sort of. Sure, we have the huge fight scenes, there's plenty of action, but really deep down, this was all about an unhappy boy who doesn't fit in. Last time we saw Kid Gladiator, his father had pulled him out of the Jean Grey School and to take him back essentially to the Shi'ar Academy to train him in the gladiator way. Well, really, we catch up with him in his schooling, but despite, all his bravado of supposedly not enjoying himself at the school, he clearly misses it and sees that he doesn't really fit in anymore with his own people. And of course, the call out goes out to all the kind of adequately, I guess, trained and available students to go into this big infinity fight war that we get throughout the comic. And just as Kid Gladiator is going to go, yay, I can get to punch stuff, his father comes in to try and stop him from going, obviously, fatherly concern. But obviously, Kid Gladiator, he's not going to just sit in a classroom on his own. He goes out there and he basically rebels and goes out, and there's a lot of fight scenes. We get some nice father-son bonding, and eventually the father kind of accepts that his son has to follow his own path, and we obviously get his inevitable return to the school with Wolverine. There was a point in this where I thought, we're not going to get a happy ending here. But unfortunately, we didn't go there. And it kind of let the issue down a little bit. There wasn't that huge dramatic effect I was going to be hoping for. It was cool to see Bradshaw back on the art duties. As much as the whole issue was entertaining, you really don't need to buy this. You're not going to miss anything. On to Infinity, part 6 of 6. Yes, we're wrapping up the latest Marvel event story. And what is there really to say? I mean, it doesn't help that this is all I read. I just read the main 6-part story. And I know this was filled in with a lot of the Avengers titles, so the Avengers main title and the New Avengers, and would probably have fleshed this story out and made more sense to me. But I wasn't going to pay any more money for issues and titles that I don't collect anyway. But I will say, and this is a bit spoilerish, so if you haven't read part 6 of 6 Infinity yet, maybe just skip a little bit. But really, after all the fighting, all the punching, all the slicing, the dicing, the hammer throwing, the way they defeat Thanos is basically, what? Encase him in amber? That's what it really looks like. What's going to happen next is, are they going to get a huge syringe and withdraw some DNA out of Thanos and go all Jurassic Park on us and make different versions of Thanos? I can see it happening. I really can. Yes, it was well written by Hickman. Yes, the art looked very nice by Jim Chung. But unless you're reading the whole thing, I don't honestly think this was as entertaining for me as it could have been. Moving on to Indestructible Hulk, issue 16. And this title only just came out last week, and if you watched last week's video, you'd have seen I'm really on the fence with this title at the moment, and this didn't help any at all. Despite the Inhumanity banner, because that's our next Marvel event that we're going to have, this felt very much like a filler issue, and because Inhumanity, I guess the main story, it hasn't come out yet, it's difficult to figure out how this fits into their next event. Basically, Banner is bored. He's trying to make stuff to prove that, you know, Banner's just as worthy to shield as the Hulk is. But every time he creates something, either Stark or Reed Richards has already made it. So, you know, he's getting a little bit angry. And what happens when he gets angry? He turns into the Hulk. So we have this ridiculous kind of storyline with Bruce and one of the scientists, Jessup, where they take down a demonic portal. And interspersed in this, you know, general storyline, we have the history of Jessup. His mum's a drunk, and what looks like his parents have some sort of suicide pact. So he's not had the greatest childhood living. But it doesn't seem to relate, or maybe this is just kind of setting up to what he may do in the future. But it doesn't seem to affect the storyline as much. I am so close to dropping this. I know from the comments last week, a lot of you already have. I'm getting there. I really am. Moving on to Revival, issue 15. And I'm sorry, but I think I've had my fill of this title. You know, I tried to like it, and with some issues, I really did think we were getting somewhere. But I just get the feeling, again, and I'm sure I've mentioned this, that I really think Tim Seeley is writing this in the hope of a TV deal. It's not written like a comic book. It does feel like a TV script, and that is really hurting my enjoyment of it. There's a lot of exposition in this book. There's a lot of talking, but really little plot progression. In a nutshell, I'm bored. Revival could be for the chop. On to Saga, issue 16, and I don't think I'm going to be very popular with my review of this, but really, the things that used to excite me and entertain me with this title, they're really beginning to wane. Remember when you used to open the cover and that first page, you just never knew what you were going to get, and it always used to either make you laugh, shock you, was just, you weren't ready for it. Well, I'm sorry, but a man with wings, in this universe, that's nothing out of the ordinary anymore. The naked unicorn woman, I'm sorry, but you peaked with your giant testicles. And I'm really bored with the family drama now. I get it. We have a family dynamic. To be honest, the only two things that really put a smile on my face with this title was seeing Lion Cat not being able to provide his trademark lying catchphrase. When Gwen swears that their best shot at saving the Will's life is to get to Marco, Lion Cat's face is just perfect. And then there was the last page, the implications of Gwen wearing the Will's cloak. Is this really the demise of the Will? We've seen before some of the great characters like the Stork out of the picture now. Brian K. Vaughan is not afraid to kill off the big characters. Frankly, I'm so glad, you know, Prince Robot IV has finally shown up, and we might get some action in this series, so I'll keep with it for maybe just a little bit longer. On to Morning Glories, issue 35, and we meet and get some more back history on this character, Fortunata Medeiros, another prisoner of the cells of the Academy. And it's here that Nick Spencer kind of recounts Fortunata's meeting up of Clarkson, who's we know now was really Casey. It's a lot of more time travel stuff, and you seriously need a clear mind to keep up with it all. All I can say is it's thank God for the back pages with Professor Nevlikov's notes from the study hall. It goes a long way in helping, the reader remember those moments from past issues, which you've likely forgotten about. There is going to come a point where I am going to have to read this from the very beginning again, and try and make sense of it all. But like I always say, Nick Spencer and Joe Asima, they just make the book really entertaining, enjoyable. You might not have a clue what's going on, but it's fun to read. Penultimate issue this week, and it's Jail Dark issue 25. Magical Mayhem continues as Swamp Thing makes an appearance and eventually comes to Constantine's aid in defeating whatever's going on in Forever Evil. I just don't have a clue really what's going on, and I'm kind of going along for the ride to the conclusion of this. And I hope it finishes soon, because I just want that JL Dark team all back together and just go off and do their own thing. Despite all that and not really understanding what's going on, fortunately, J.M. DeMatteis, Mikhail Janin on art duties, this isn't a chore to read. I love DeMatteis' writing. Janin's artwork is just lovely to look at. I just want it out of this DC event that I know absolutely nothing about. And finally, the issue I was really looking forward to this week. It was Black Science, a new issue #1 from Image. And basically, Rick Remender proves once again that he writes great sci-fi adventure stories. Check out Fear Agent if you don't believe me. But while, Fear Agent had an element of humour and there was kind of that tongue-in-cheek entertainment, Black Science is deadly serious. We're thrown straight into this frenzied chase sequence where you have these two humans being pursued by what looks like kind of reptilian alien creatures, and they're riding on the backs of overgrown lizards. And from the kind of inner monologue that we read from the main character's mind that shit's hit the fan, basically. We get treated to giant turtles with temples built on their backs. We've got two alien races battling against each other. Swamps, jungles, exotic alien dancers, underwater escapes, and, the race against time. And we finish up with, that case of out of the frying pan into the fire. And of course, all of this fantastic stuff is beautifully realised by Matteo Scalera's artwork. I really couldn't be happier with this title. It is certainly my title of the week. You need to go and get yourself a copy of this. It's beautiful, Rick Remender, sci-fi goodness. And we're done. We'll probably be back to normal next week. I hope you at least enjoyed hearing my voice. Sorry for being so lazy. Have a great weekend, and I'll see you next week. Goodbye.